Like Volkswagens, the Venture Brothers, and soft tissue sarcomas, Subterra grows on you. I enjoy it thoroughly despite its rough edges, production woes, and Kickstarter controversies. What I possess is not a review copy, but rather the outcome of a zen-like patience and unflappable loyalty that must accompany the support of a Kickstarter game. Subterra was the first hardcore board game I backed, excluding Bears, Kittens, and Babies, a game of simplistic ideology and novel presentation. When someone can condense the entire methodology of a game into a single sentence, be assured that game has found an audience. Here's a cooperative tile-laying game where players create a network of caves, caverns, and cavities in hopes of finding the exit before the battery and their lights go out and the monsters hiding around the corners finally take notice and swarm in. It's Carcassonne mixed with the movie The Descent. Done. Take my money. And this was the result. 6 months later, a half dozen packages that, holy hell, did I seriously pay for all this? Kickstarter revolves around investment, sometimes in a product, occasionally in a company, sporadically in just an idea. I'm currently wrapping up a campaign myself. Patience is a virtue, and I was never under any doubt Subterra would deliver. Outside of shipping delays, inside the box, games suffered from production issues, fulfillment prioritization, and the controversial decision to start a third Kickstarter campaign despite the first one being incomplete. Their latest campaign was cancelled amid fan backlash in hopes of addressing these issues. None of which matters here. I have my game. I like it, despite flaws. I can only review based on information received, and this is an analysis of the totality of Subterra. Firstly, to the basic components I don't employ, given Kickstarter rewards. The basic die is, well, basic, as are the meeples, which the game does supply stickers with for an extra personalization, stickers which were already peeling upon their removal from the box. The included monsters promised were replaced with rather unspectacular wooden discs. On its own, passable. However, I backed, well, everything. That singular pip die has now been replaced with color-coded dice for each character. These are custom designed and brilliant. Likewise are the miniatures, a far superior alternative to the wooden meeples, also color-matched and distinct. Despite the increased appeal, these models lack the level of detail seen with others of the same scale, so painting them may be difficult. The character models are based on their art, making identification easier, though also lacking intricate detail. There is also a tower holding the tiles during the game. Admittedly a cool idea, but one forced to be disassembled once the game is concluded, and one suffering from a glaring design flaw. The locking tabs are built upside down, meaning the assembly can never be secured. Thankfully, social media has an answer. One idea gleaned suggests using painted toothpicks to fasten the whole thing. I just won't bother taking it apart from now on. The game itself is rather elegant. You place a central tile, among several if you have a lot of disposable income, like I apparently had a year ago, assumed to be the result of a spelunking-gone-wrong, forcing the exploration of the cave network in search of an escape, or more appropriately, racing through all the tiles until the escape tile is revealed. All characters start on this tile. Somehow. This game plays up to 5 players, so your guess is as good as mine how they all fit. That's because this game is designed for 4 players. When playing less than 2, you control 2 characters each, and if playing alone, you manage all 4. I don't have an issue with this when involving cooperative gaming. It's a common feature. I do have a severe issue when phantom players are necessary for competitive games. Don't force phantom players and claim your game is for less than 3 players. Just say it's for 3 and up and don't deceive your audience. Each character has a listed amount of health, each character has a listed special abilities, each character has 2 possible actions with the option of a third, though that one comes with the chance of injury. Roll a die. On a 1, 2, and 3, you still gain the action but suffer a wound. Each character is useful, with no one role more important. Unless you're the bodyguard. Subterra is not about finding the exit. It's about running through these tiles as quickly as possible. It's not like you will stumble on the exit in 5 minutes. You'll always have to burn through at least 99% of the tiles in the box until the exit is revealed. As such, when you are entering an intersection, your best bet is to lay down tiles in all possible directions thanks to one of the basic actions. Explore. When a tile is revealed, its challenge presents itself. Maybe it's a slide, a cliff, or a narrow patch. Perhaps it's an unstable cave or a spawn point for monsters. The second potential action is to move onto a revealed tile if you can. Flooded tiles require 2 actions, as do squeezed tiles. The third option is to remove and explore, where you reveal a tile and move onto it, taking whatever risks lie beyond. You can also expend 2 actions to attempt to lay down rope, an ability the climber does with ease. You can also hide from monsters if one is stalking you. When each player has gone, meaning all of them, you escalate a common attribute in nearly all cooperative games. Draw 1 card, which can include floods, cave-ins, or monsters. This deck is also a timer indicating when the flashlights run out, and when the lights fail, the monsters close in. Yeah, basically like that. The horrors, as they are called, emerge from the spawn points and are an ever-increasing threat that close in, cutting off escape routes and perhaps trapping characters in an eventual death. Unless you have the bodyguard, in which case they're less threatening than a 10-year-old cosplayer with a foam sword. The bodyguard can remove 1 horror from an adjacent square. No skill check, just remove the threat. Obviously, the lack of a skill check is necessary since a failure would surely kill the bodyguard by the end of the turn. But this still reduces the greatest threat in the game to a mere annoyance. This process continues, sometimes forcing characters to separate, mandatory given the timetable above to explore this network and uncover the exit. No 2 layouts are ever the same. Obviously, given the chaos of placement, it may become necessary to shift the entire layout across the table, difficult unless on a game mat, and made more problematic with the inclusion of a mismatched tile. 1 corner tile intended was swapped with another cliff tile, resulting in the climber being more useful and potentially creating a longer stretch of tunnel that threatens to run off one's table. Throughout this video, you'll notice my table under bright light, but even under these conditions, you'll notice this game is dark. Not so much in ambience, though that's obviously a promoted element, especially when you employ the ambient music ITB supplies. Yes, Terra has a soundtrack, and it's shockingly good. This game is actually dark, like you'll need to trade a doctor 20 menthol cools for a surgical shine job to see anything. Really? Nothing? Tough crowd. Thankfully, ITB has an answer. An optional, and yet, in my humble opinion, essential game accessory. A UV light, which you can acquire for less than $10 from Home Depot. And the results are indisputably dramatic. Tiles erupt in luminescence and legibility. Wait. Yep, that's a word. Moving on. So instead of employing the supplied first player marker, I suggest for the first piece of the homebrew, use the light instead. It's thematic. Reduce the light and set the mood, though complete darkness is not advised as the light makes it near impossible to differentiate characters. I believe the complete package of Terra creates a remarkably original and satisfying experience, despite the aforementioned issues, as well as those I'll address in my homebrew corner. An issue with certain cooperative games is when a player loses actions through peripheral circumstances. This is notorious in games that offer a player multiple actions. 1 or more can be occasionally lost. The game that addressed this the best was Flashpoint Fire Rescue, employing action tokens a player discards when using, and is able to bank when needed later. Terra suffers from the same issue, thus it can be solved by the same solution. Thankfully, I own Flashpoint, so an easy rule to include. I suggest only allowing 1 banked action. If the designers decry this as making the game easier, just increasing the difficulty is painless. The book includes rules for such a situation. The game's lowest difficulty, known as Standard, not Introductory, is not particularly challenging. Making the lowest difficulty difficult only serves to alienate people, and with the higher 2 difficulties, increasing said challenge is straightforward. My second suggestion revolves the endgame, which is when the broken flashlight is revealed. At the end of each turn, player must perform a skill check, a failure resulting in that character being devoured by horrors. No more crisis cards are drawn, just a skill check at the end of the turn. Obviously impartial from a mechanical perspective, the rule detaches the game from a 2 at this point thematically consistent experience. To address this, I believe that a player with a failed flashlight occupying this space with another player with a functioning flashlight is not devoured. Thematically consistent, yes. Does it make the game easier? To a point, obviously, but as I spoke previously, that same issue could be addressed. Additionally, a more advanced rule has the lights failing on a 5 or 6 plus, but having that range increase as delvers linger longer than they should. Finally, there are numerous opportunities contained within the 3 expansion packs. I won't go too much into them. Investigation includes gear cards, which I believe are vital to the experience, and addresses many of the issues my homebrew suggestions tackle. This expansion includes 3 additional tiles, including a quarter tile. It suggests removing 3 tiles randomly to replace it with these. Obviously, one of those discarded should be a cliff tile. Extraction includes more and varied monster types and an additional play variant, which is not explained in the book thanks to a printing error. You can find those rules on their Facebook page. And finally, Annihilation, which offers a completely different version of play, where characters are venturing into the network to plant explosives and then escape. None of the issues presented here devalue the game, as they can be addressed without any physical modification. Yes, this entire Subterra experience, as shown here, does cost the same as Gloomhaven, but I did find the experience worthwhile. My faith in ITB remains resolute. My preference is to combine both extraction and investigation supplements, with the homebrew rules provided to create a truly complex and thematic experience. It's unfortunate not everyone can experience the game the way I do, but I do love Subterra, despite receiving it 6 months after the promised date. He was without sin. This is Chris Diaz from Deus Ex Machina.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.